Welcome to East Coast Averages, the podcast that brings you stories from everyday people from all around the world. Recorded on the east coast of Australia, I'm your host Nick, and each week we'll sit down with average people who have unique stories to tell. Let's peek over the back fence and see what's happening in other people's lives. I never know what I'm going to discover until I sit down and start chatting to them. Today's episode, I'm talking to a young lady who's not afraid to get out there and have her voice heard. She'll head out to the local protest if she believes in the cause, grab a placard, grab hold of the megaphone and make sure her voice has been heard. So today on East Coast Averages, we're talking to a young lady, Catherine, who I've dealt with in the past when we've come across each other doing some work for an association that I belong to, which we don't talk about on the podcast. So she has agreed to come and have a chat with us. Catherine, how are you going?
I'm very well, Nick. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. So what's your story, Catherine? Hit me with it, mate.
Oh, gee.
Give me your life story right from the beginning.
Where should I start? I was born in Coburg, in Brunswick, near Brunswick in Victoria.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, where's Coburg?
Yeah, from Victoria. To two parents who are teachers, both teachers in the public school system. I don't know if your parents are going to like this or not, but when I get the volunteer, you know how you get voluntary school fees? They keep getting a bill for $90 every year. I refuse to pay them because I fucking pay my taxes for public school. So I'll pay whatever elective my child's doing, but I'm not paying voluntary fees when I pay tax. So I don't know. I don't know if that's good. I love it. I mean,
that's my stand against the school system.
I've currently gotten quite grumpy because I've finally past the threshold where I now need to start paying like the private Medicare levy fee, and that makes me very grumpy as well. Can't
you stop getting that with private health insurance?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't have private health insurance. I also am against that. I don't know. I just
Well, we'll get to that in the conversation. Don't worry, Catherine. There's a lot of
politics.
Things. There's a lot of things I want to find out about how you took your way to certain areas. But the way I get what you're saying about public schools, and we've already got off track, I suppose. But if all the private schools shut tomorrow, the public schools couldn't cope with the amount of kids that would show up at the public school. So
very true.
That's my only. I was saying to a bloke one time saying that the private schools shouldn't be getting subsidies off the government,
money,
and then he said, "Well, what if all the private schools closed tomorrow and they all showed up at the public high school? You'd have like 5,000 kids."
So true. I mean, that's true.
So that's my only concern. But personally, I think if a kid's going to go well, they're going to go well in private school, public school, homeschool. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Actually, I don't. It's true to a degree, but when I was in a high school and then in uni, I started tutoring kids because I was a nerd. Surprise, surprise. I don't think that would surprise you.
No, I wouldn't put you down as a massive nerd, like a full.
Oh, I was. I was horrifically nerdy in high school and in uni. I really only cared about school. Big loser vibes. But so I tutored a lot.
Hang on, Catherine. You're not a loser if you're good at school.
Not anymore.
No loser vibes, all right, at school.
True. Learning is cool.
Yeah.
Learning's cool. So I was a tutor, and I found when I was tutoring private school kids, they were really they were really used to having a lot of information, knowledge handed to them. So it was actually a lot harder to tutor them than it was to tutor public school kids who had to be, I guess, who didn't have to be, but they were just taught to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And had
so you had to hold their hand more, the private school students, to get
much
them to
more.
it. Yeah,
much more. Yeah.
Did you make them pay the private school tax? Because my son's a carpenter, and I keep saying to him, he says, "Oh fuck, this person shits me," or "I didn't like that teacher." I said, "Mate, you make them pay the tax. When you're a carpenter and you go to the house to do a quote, and you run into someone you don't like, you look at them and think, you're paying the fucking tax, mate. You're paying the tax that you shit me off 10 years ago, and this is my time to shine, and you're paying." You know what I mean? So you should have been paying them.
I should have done that. I absolutely should have done that. I did not, though. I was tutoring through a company. So they got to set the prices. So I actually got rorted. because they probably took like half the fee they were charging. I think I only got like $30 an hour or something, which at the time, obviously when you're like 16, 17, 18, to me that was like gold.
Yeah. Well, my daughter's earning $12.50. That's the award rate that she gets paid.
Yeah. Jeez.
It's not
that
much.
Is shit.
I know it is, but today she got like $250 in her account. So, and she's happy with that. She's only 15.
Okay.
So
yeah, I guess what else do you need really? My first proper job was when I was, I think, 14 or 15, and it was at Lord of the Fries.
Lord of the Fries. Cooking chips, obviously.
I was so bad at it. I was so bad at it because I would anytime I didn't want to clean. I didn't want to do any of that. So anytime that I was asked to do a cleaning task, I pretended I saw a customer that was like walking by that was maybe going to buy something, and I'd be like, "Oh no, sorry, I think that guy looks like he's about to buy something, so I don't think I should get started on that cleaning task." Actually,
and how much did you get paid for doing that?
I can't remember. It would have been shit though. I reckon it would have been like $13-14 an hour.
Yep.
Nothing amazing.
So let's go back it up a bit, Catherine, to your parents. Both, are they high school teachers or primary school?
Yeah, so both my parents are high school teachers. They were actually. They were high school teachers. Now, my mum is an author, published author.
Oh, I do remember you saying that.
Books,
yes. I do recall you saying that now. I was just about to also ask you, did I ever bag teachers out in front of you, not knowing that your mum and dad were teachers? Because I sometimes find teachers infuriating, whatever that word is, because I feel like sometimes they look like they're not really connected to the real world.
In what way do you mean?
Well, they spent too much time in school and they need to come out to the real world and see how it operates. Now, might be a nasty thing. All the teachers across podcast land have just turned me podcast off, said, no, fuck him. And they're saying, you know why he doesn't like teachers, because he can't even pronounce infuriating.
My parents being really giving and caring and community-oriented, and like they took us to rallies and stuff when we were younger and things like that. But they also really encouraged us to make up our own minds as well. Like that was a big thing. I have a very distinct memory of my childhood. I think I would have been quite young, like maybe 10 or something. I remember it was back in Australia, so it would have maybe 10 or 12. And I remember specifically asking, because I think there were big protests at the time around like a women's right to abortion or something like that. And I remember saying, like, what are we meant to think about this? Like, I didn't know what, I guess, our family position was, you know? And I really remember my parents saying, well, you know, here's what we think, but it's up to you.
Look, I was going to say my dad has, and I said the same thing to both my kids. He always said to us, he said, you've got to be, he said, you take information in from everybody around you, but you have to be your own counsel. You've got to make your own decision after listen to all the advice,
really?
But be your own counsel and make your own decisions. So
that's so nice. Do you feel like you followed that advice loyally?
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah. My son has too, because he won't listen to my advice. I was like, do this, man. He goes, no, I'm not going to.
I'm listening to my own counsel, Dad.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want to.
And look, I was brought up in a very left household. Like Dad was massive unionist, Labor voter. Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's where I get the same sort of union views, I suppose.
Yeah, union politics. Yeah.
Left. What did my dad used to say also? Should have a capitalist society with a really left-wing conscience. So you've got to make money, but you've really got to look after the people that need it. You can't just leave people hanging in the breeze.
And do you feel like you also believe that?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah, because you can't. I don't mind my taxes going to help people have housing, and if the more tax I pay, the more money I'm making. So you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like if I'm paying a lot of tax, I'm making good money. I don't mind putting my taxes towards helping people who don't have housing, or, you know, people who might have gone down the path of drug addiction to get out of that and to help their kids and pay for their health care. I don't have an issue with that. I think it's part of being a good community, I suppose. Or the right wingers have just turned off.
I really strongly agree.
Yeah. So your mum left teaching and wrote books?
Yep. Well, she left teaching and then she became a editor. So she just like we moved to Cambodia when I was a kid.
Yes, so I just wrote that down. You said in Australia, so I was going to say, so you've lived overseas somewhere?
Yeah. We moved to Cambodia for a couple of years when I was into primary school. So I would have been like 8.
Excuse me real quick whilst I drop an ad on you, and then we'll be back to the show. Hey, East Coast Average listeners, if you're a cat lover searching for a t-shirt that combines creativity with style, check out graphicoasisco.com. There you'll find unique designs featuring whimsical cats, steampunk themes and inspirational quotes. Each shirt there is made with vibrant colours, sharp lines, and you'll look fantastic while showcasing your personality. So go and visit graphicoasisco.com and use East Coast Averages at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Elevate your wardrobe with graphicoasisco.com. Let your shirt do the talking. So did you, now this is going to make me sound really dumb. What language do they speak in Cambodia? It's
called Khmer.
Khmer. Did you learn?
So it's not intuitive.
Yeah. I was going to say Cambodian or something like that.
No, I mean, it's not an easy switch like Cambodian to Khmer. But we learnt a little bit. Yeah. I still remember how to say the numbers 1 to 10.
Yeah, everyone can say 1 to 10 in some other language.
And we learnt a little bit of French too, because that's another major language there.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I'm really bad at languages.
How did the Cambodian population accept you into the school and that? As a Australian, like, you know what I mean, redheaded.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to like look back on, because we were part of an expat community, I guess, right? So there's like a big expat culture there of like a bunch people working for not-for-profits, people, diplomats, stuff like that. So we actually went to an international school, and so you sort of look back and it feels quite odd in that you're there in an incredibly impoverished country. I don't know if that's like the right phrase to use, but yeah, a country where a lot of people are really struggling. Like the atrocities that they experienced there weren't that long ago. So, you would see a lot of people who had experienced, they had like limbs that had been blown off and stuff like that. So it was quite intense. But when you're 8 years old, the main things I remember, we were in a really lush house. We had my parents have 4 kids. We all had our own bedroom and our own ensuite.
No, it was
pretty fucked in a lot of ways.
We had 4 kids in my family. I shared a room till I was 16 and a half. I think when my grandmother got too old to be at home, she went to a nursing home. Yeah. And I moved in the next day. I said, see you, Nan, I'm taking your room.
Thank you for the room.
So I shared a room for like 16 and a half years. So, yeah.
So like it's quite odd, right, to look back, particularly I think we all really loved our time there, but I think we all do look back on it as well with like, I guess, a little bit, discomfort's not the right word, but I guess reflective.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because when you say a particular country or population is impoverished, you feel a little bit guilty by saying by looking at their life and saying, oh, that's and passing judgment on their life and saying, oh, your life looks impoverished, so it must be as good as my life.
Yeah, which is not what it's of course never what you mean. What you mean is really just that these people have been dealt a very fucked hand by, colonization and violence and war and corruption, and are doing their very best to get through every day.
I remember I went to what's the bloody country called? In Africa, when I was in the Navy, we went to Kenya, and that I was 20, I think, and that was the first time I'd seen really, really impoverished people, I suppose, poor people. Like there was some really poor people, and they were living in the street under cardboard boxes and that. You know what I mean? Like it's a bit of an eye opener when you see how poor some countries actually are and how shitty their life is. Well, I don't want to say their life's shitty, but just how hard. You know what I mean? Like I won't say
I guess the opposite is how lucky we are, right? Like it opens your eyes to how, the roll of the dice that we get to experience what we get to experience and how amazing that is. And so that was how I spent my childhood. I did that, and then I came back for high school here.
Do you dislike humidity and heat after living in Cambodia?
That's one of the main reasons I moved to Sydney.
To get warmer.
Yeah, I could not. Oh, like I can't tell you, Nick, when I go back to Melbourne, I love it because I get to see my family, I get to see my friends, and that's really amazing. But you're also there and I'm like, fuck, it's freezing. And also, like, it's fucking dry. Like, it's horrible. In Sydney, I don't know, every day feels like to me it's basically summer.
Yeah, I don't really like humidity. I used to go to Darwin a lot in the Navy, and I just think, fuck, this joint is just...
Is that why you moved to the mountains?
No, I don't know. My parents moved here years ago, so I sort of came back here Yeah, my wife and I, Kez and I, said we were never coming back to the Blue Mountains, and 20 years later, here we are.
Really?
I'm living in the house she grew up in, so we bought it off her parents, and here I am. And East Coast Averages, and I'm 120 k's from the coast. We're both very coasty people.
Where did the name come from?
Oh, look, the premise of the show is to speak to average people and hear their life story. So,
but East Coast. I guess you're on the East Coast.
We're on the East Coast of Australia. Yeah, that was my son. I was going to call it the Average Joe. But my son actually came up with East Coast Averages, and I thought, that doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
I was going to ask, have you had your kids on the show? Are you going to have your kids on the show?
Now, Catherine, have you listened to the show?
I've listened to a couple of episodes.
Oh, okay.
I know your kids on. Yeah. I really liked the first one because I sent you a message about it. So
going back to, I've always surprised that. So going to rallies, right? I've always looked at the news and you see kids at rallies and that. And I wouldn't say I was an activist or anything. Yeah. I have probably some beliefs, but I've never got off my ass to go to a rally. Like when you were a kid going to these rallies, was it exciting? Was it scary, or do you think, oh, fuck, now Mum and Dad are dragging me to another fucking, are you serious? It's Saturday. We're going to another rally? Come on. It's the weekend, man.
We took younger brothers to a lot, I think, because they took them to the ones about the Iraq War. I think those were the ones they went to. And then, I don't know, I think from the age when I was like 13, I sort of started going to them out of self-sufficiency, I guess. But I also think, like, for my generation, there's a component to which going to rallies is also about, like, your street cred is the wrong phrase, but, like, it's not like it's a social thing to do as well, right? Like, you're connecting with your peers when you go to a rally.
Yeah, so instead of going hanging out at Westfields, you and your friends
basically
would go to a rally.
And that's like it's sort of similar to organising in that my job is building community out of joint struggle.
Did you go to some rallies with your friends and turn around and say, what rally are we at today? Like, you're going, what are we doing? Oh, what's the rally about? Oh, I don't know. We're just here hanging out. And someone comes up and says, what do you think, girls? What do you think, girls, of the rally? Oh, fuck if I know. We just decided to come in the city. We need an excuse. We're at the rally.
Not quite, but yeah, like, no, you just go, like, you'd go to be part of the community moment, I guess. And then, I think I sort of just kept it up. But I remember, like, it always feels, I never look forward to going to them, though. You know, like, I mean, even these days, like, because they're quite tiring to go to. You're standing for a long time. I've got terrible posture. So,
you're shouting, your voice is hoarse at the end of it.
Yeah, like, your voice hurts. It's very emotional, you know. You're sort of in an environment where you're naturally forcing yourself to sort of have, like, intense emotions. And so you always sort of, or at least I do, or some others don't, but I always feel quite tired in anticipation of going to a rally.
Yep.
But then you always feel so much better for having gone as well. Like, you always do feel like you've done not only the right thing, but it's like, this is a useful way for me to spend my time. I feel like I've been of use to
so that just makes me feel bad because I've seen, I've not gone down. I remember
Nick, you do so much, and I can't say what you do, but like I did stories about your the activism and the journey you went through, like when we worked together, and it has almost made me cry every time I tell the story.
Come on, Catherine,
it literally made somebody cry in an interview I had recently because I was talking about a couple of different examples of people who I've seen their journeys through different movements. And it's so beautiful to talk about. So, like, the idea that you would feel bad that you haven't done a lot, like you've done more than most people would do across 90 years of their life.
I suppose.
You know?
Maybe. But I was going to say,
definitely.
I remember seeing something on the news once and I thought I could go to, if they have a rally for that, I'm fucking going to it. And I don't.
What was it?
I actually don't remember, to be honest with you, but I just thought if I'm ever going to go to a protest march, that's the one I'm going to. But
interesting.
I didn't go to it and I cannot remember I can't remember what it was about. Some kind of human rights thing, I think.
Well, mate, there'll be a couple of good ones coming up, I reckon.
Maybe I need to go to a rally and report back to the East Coast Average listeners is what I thought of the rally.
We could go to one together, Nick.
And then do a post-rally episode.
Yeah.
Well, I'm open for anything on this podcast, so send me the details. Send me the deets.
I'll let you know the next couple that I'm going to. You can actually come to one of them for one of my works rallies. I'll bring you along.
Yeah, all right. Well, send me the deets. I'll bring my daughter with me. Dad used to say to me all the time that the stuff we have now was fought for.
They don't know. Yeah, exactly. They just don't understand.
The stuff that I've got now, my dad and his union guys fought for 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. So it's sort 100%. I can understand now where I'm getting a bit of a picture, Catherine, of how you turned into who you are from your parents. So your brother got three brothers?
Three brothers.
Are they all younger than you, the eldest?
No, I'm not. People ask me that a little. They either say you're the eldest or the youngest. I don't think either's very indicative of people thinking, like, I think both have implications that aren't necessarily positive. I am number 3 of 4.
Number 3.
So 2 older, 1 younger.
Oh, okay. And you all get along?
What was that?
You all get along well?
Yeah, we do. Yep. I think we've always gotten along very well. I think we're learning to be more open with each other as we get older. I think we never used to share that much. And I think we're trying to share more about our lives as we get older.
So like a therapy session when you go home for barbecue?
Just, you go home and you actually, well, all my brothers still live quite near home. So I'm the one that's moved the furthest away. But like I used to ask one of my older brothers, like, oh, how's work going? And he'd say, why? There was a.
Did he want to know why? You wanted to know who was having a good time at work?
Yeah, I was just asking, because it's nice to know if you're enjoying work. But I think we're all getting better at that as we get older, I think. Which is quite nice. Yeah. And I guess I have to be a bit more intentional as well about staying in touch, living interstate now. Like I've got to actively try to make sure that I
Have the airfares come down in price?
No.
No, they're still up. Yeah, I thought that was because you used to be able to get to Melbourne for like $50.
$60. It used to be great. I would go down once a month. It was stunning. Now it's about 300.
Yeah, it hasn't really gone back down again, has it?
No. So it's killing me. So I don't go back down nearly as much anymore. But I've started getting really into credit cards and like points hacking.
Oh, okay.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
I don't see. I'm no good at that because I spend the money on the credit card and then don't pay it back. So I end up with like fucking some stupid amount of credit card debt and think, oh fuck, that was a waste of time. So I've got to stay completely clear of credit card points.
I have to be really strict with myself because I could very easily do that. Like I can't go into even like those games rooms that they have like at bowling arcades and stuff. Like I can't even go to them because I always like think, oh, just one more and then I'll win big. So I definitely have like an addictive personality. And even like winning big there, right, is like you get a big plush toy or something, so you don't even get to win big. But I've gotten very into points hacking. And I'm trying to be very good about the credit card. I got it mainly traveling.
You got done with one of those TikToks, didn't you? About
what was that?
You got done with one of those TikToks or Insta Reels. Someone who says, "Come and follow me. I'll show you how to hack the points."
But it actually did work. So I got I'm going overseas for the first time as an adult, actually, at the end of August, which I'm very excited about.
I'm going with some friends.
I'm going to Greece and Ireland.
Oh yeah, cool.
I'm going to see the I'm very excited actually because Greece has a very strong anarchist community, and Ireland obviously has a very strong history of like resistance and anti-colonial war, and so I'm going to get to see a bunch of really cool stuff related to that. That
you've read about and know about, and that you really want to go and look at.
Yeah.
Cool. So the points got you business class or just upgraded?
No, nothing like that. But the points did get. So I got the points, and then one of my friends really wanted to come, but he was a bit worried about being able to afford the ticket. But my points got him over to Greece for $200.
Oh, that's all right. Well, my points, I got some points.
Do you?
I got a credit card with points on it because I was doing some renovations. I thought I'll just do the renovations on. And anyway, so it's got me, my wife, my daughter to Hawaii for $500. So,
hell yeah!
But
Jesus!
But like the prices before that were like $1,600 a ticket.
I know.
I'm thinking, how the fuck am I going to afford this? Like. Yeah.
I'm like, how is everybody affording these yearly trips that everyone's doing overseas? Do you know what I mean?
Because I was looking at all the airlines, and every ticket to Hawaii was fucking $1,600. I was thinking $800. And anyway, so I got points and paid $500.
How good! Oh my god!
Tickets.
We have to exchange points hacking tips. Now I
got rid of that credit card because again I ran it up and thought, fuck, I can't do it. So I paid it off and cut it up. So I don't make points anymore. I cannot.
Can't risk it.
To all the people out there, I cannot have credit cards because I go silly with them.
If any of the listeners have tips for the best cards to get,
send me an email.
Please submit them. Yeah,
send me an email at info@eastcoastaverages.com and I will pass them on to Catherine so that she can
be fantastic.
Maybe come home from Greece business class. I don't know.
That would be lovely, actually. Can you imagine 14-hour flight lying down?
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? How long are you going for?
3 weeks, which will be really exciting. I think it'll be like my longest holiday in a while. Which is really nice. Like, it's also quite nice to be in a job where I don't feel as much. I think I felt a lot of with the last job where you and I got to know each other, Nick. Like, I felt like such a personal connection. I think that it was quite hard to step away.
Yep.
And it feels easier.
Turn off at night job, when you went home.
So that's really nice.
Yeah. It is nice when you go home from work and don't think about work.
It's lovely. It is absolutely incredible. You know, I've never been so relaxed.
So you came back to Australia and went to high school, and you said you were a nerd in high school.
I was.
Why were you a nerd, Catherine? Were you in the drama club scene?
No, not that.
Not saying that the drama club is the nerds, but I guess I am saying that. But yeah.
Although I was like a weird theatre kid in Cambodia. Actually, I did some like theatre there. But back in Australia, I just cared a lot about my grades. I think that was like where I got my main sense of self-esteem from. And I think like once you develop that, it's quite hard to let go of that. So I reckon until I was like 20, till I finished uni, that I think that was like one of my main identity points, right? That I was like a smart person.
And what sort of grades were you getting the grades to go along?
Oh, yeah. Like I was like a very good student. Except for in year 10 when I had like my rebellious phase, I guess.
What did you get up to in your rebellious stage? Just stop studying?
What was that?
Just stop studying in your rebellious stage?
Yeah. I think, and I just, as every 16-year-old does, you sort of, I guess you try drinking, you care less about school and you care more about like looking cool or whatever. And so I think that was around year 10 for me. And I got like an older boyfriend.
Was he at school still?
Yeah, he was. Well, he wasn't like old.
Yeah.
No, I would have been 16 and he would have been 18. So like fine, but I guess like then when I like, then when you're 18, you're like, why would I ever date a 16-year-old? They're like, most boring people in the world and also children. But yeah, so I think it was that. So except for year 10, so that was my year when my grades weren't as good.
And what snapped you back in year 11? Did you get bad grades and think, fuck, this is not good, man?
And also like I was so desperate to do well in VCE, which is like our version of I don't know what it's called in New South Wales.
ATAR or something like that.
But I was so desperate to do really well in VCE that I but I mean then I also primarily just studied all the time. And like I look back at photos of myself and I was like I also got like incredibly skinny, like very unhealthily skinny, like just very obsessive, for those 2 years. And it like worked, I guess. I got good grades, but like as everybody says, once they finish high school, you go for what? Like it doesn't actually get you anything.
Maybe we need to change
at all.
That's what I mean. Like maybe we need to change the school system, and that's where I got frustrated. Like my son is not by any means a bad student. He just didn't suit the way the school system worked. But everything was built around keeping him in that system and not allowing him to go in other places. And you said that you go to high school, you get your marks, you get a job, and then you don't do anything to do with. No one asks you about your high school marks. You know what I mean? So you go to uni and you do a degree that you end up working in something completely different anyway. So,
I mean, that's exactly right. It's really interesting that you say that about your son because I remember really distinctly in year 9, there was like a guy in our class who was like I guess a bit like didn't come to class a lot, like just was disruptive in the classroom, typical stuff. But like a lovely guy for all intents and purposes, really nice interpersonally, just didn't suit school. And I think like from memory, I think he like got suspended or detentions quite a lot or whatever. And then one year he did like a one of those cooking classes, and he loved it. And I don't know the exact details because I wasn't close to him at all. I just sort of know the story from the outside. But like, I think the school was like, well, you're not coming enough, so we're going to have to expel you. And I think he was probably like, well, fine, I'm going to go do this cooking thing that I've really wanted to do anyway. And now he's like a friggin' Michelin star chef, you know, like he's excelling. And if they just supported that, you know, and look, given him that pathway.
Yeah. And I guess that's, and like my son, he left school in year 10 and I tried to talk him into staying in year 12 and thankfully he talked me out of that. But he did come home and he had one teacher that was came in to help him study. He said to him, "You're not going to get anywhere if you don't do this." You know what I mean? And I said, "What are these?"
Yeah, what's the point of doing that? Yeah.
And then he got this job as an apprentice, and they had him do a online sort of aptitude exam test to see how he would go and sort of how much they can put on him for learning. And he fucking came in the top 10 percentile. You know what I mean? Like, so you've got the teacher saying you're never going to get anyway. And that's what I said to him. I said, if you run across those teachers in your life as a carpenter, they pay the tax. They pay the fucking you're an asshole tax. You know what I mean? And I said to him, I said, you add 30% of their price, man, and you make them pay. They want you to build them a pergola. Well, they're paying for the fucking.
Yeah, like looking back on it. And, you know, people do say this to you, right? And my parents said this to me. They're like, you know, your grades aren't everything. But it is also quite hard to, particularly when the school system is designed around grades, to like accept that as and internalize it, I think. So yeah, I cared a lot about them. And yeah, then I went on to study. I went to like the uni that was right across the road from my high school. You know, it was like the fancy uni. And I went there and I studied the Bachelor of Arts, which was fine.
Do you major in something when you do Bachelor of Arts?
I majored in criminology and creative writing.
Yep.
There's a combination which leads to no career at all, but I found it interesting.
Criminology and creative writing.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like it goes together. Criminology, it does not, and creative writing.
No, it doesn't at all. No, I really did sort of just do the It's a great privilege to do, but I just went, what's interesting to me, and I'll just study that. And I just sort of, I guess I had the insane self-belief that I'd come out the other side with a job. It's such a beautiful thing to just be able to learn for learning's sake. And that's like the only reason I'd go back and do my PhD. I wouldn't want to become an academic. I think I'd hate it. But I would love the...
See, I think uni should be free for everyone.
I do too.
I think
my parents were in the generation that had uni for free.
That's an investment for our future, man. Like, you know what I mean? It
makes me furious whenever I look at my HECS debt going up.
Yeah, because same. But if you decide to become an apprentice, your TAFE should be free as well.
Was it not for your son? Did he have to pay for his TAFE?
No, it was free because they were short. He was one of the trades that they were short, and they made the TAFE course free for his.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, he was lucky. He didn't have to pay anything.
Is your daughter finished high school yet?
No, she's in year 9. She's going all right. She's pretty smart. Yeah, she got her, what's that bloody test they do where the whole state does it?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what it's called.
NAPLAN or something that was supposed to.
Yeah, NAPLAN,
which was supposed to be, don't even get me started on NAPLAN. I don't necessarily agree with the NAPLAN
system.
Like
it?
Well, it was supposed to show what each school, how they go on. But now they start talking about if you don't reach a certain level in NAPLAN, you can't do your HSC, or they're putting all this.
All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Not that I've read anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm one of those parents that never goes to school to do anything. I have to
that's your kids' domain. I sort of think, let your kids have the school then you'll just go if it's needed.
That's
you
what
don't need to be super involved.
I used to go to, if I went to, both my kids in primary school, parent-teacher night, I would just go in there and say, how's my kids' behaviour? Are they arseholes? Are they nice kids? And they say, yeah, they're nice kids. So that's all I need to know. And I'd say, you're not going to see me at school. I don't want to come to the book parades. I don't want to come in here and help you read in the class. I said, but don't take that as me being not interested in what they're doing at school. I said, school's your job. I drop them off in the morning, you teach them. Then I'll come and pick them up in the afternoon. That's all I want to do. That's me done. As long as they turn out to be nice people, I don't particularly care what they decide to do. Yeah, that's the number one thing,
isn't it? Yeah. Did your kids spend a lot of time? Did they grow up in the mountains?
Yeah, we moved here. My son was 5 when we moved back here. I used to live up in the north coast of New South Wales.
Did they get to spend a lot of time in nature growing up?
Well, I'm not really a bushwalker, Catherine. I've done 2 bushwalks in 40 years.
Really?
And if you listen to a couple of the other podcast episodes, get right into with a few guests about how much we hate bushwalking. so not really into nature. Well, my son's a crazy four-wheel driver, but that's a lot of
Hell yeah.
A lot of nature buffs don't like four-wheel drivers, so
I think they're fun.
They think me personally, not my bag, because I don't see the point in just driving your car up the hill for the sake of driving your car up the hill. If I was going camping somewhere and I had to four-wheel drive to get there,
no problem. That makes sense.
But like my son will go away with his mates and just drive up and down the same hill because there's a big rock. Let's go over it.
It's so funny, Nick, that you've grown up like that. You raise your kids by the water, mid-north coast, and then in the mountains. But you don't consider yourself like a nature person. Do you think it's just nice to be around it though?
I definitely like being. When I go to the city, I've got friends in the city, and if I go to the city to see a show or anything, I get a bit like starstruck and think, oh fuck, I'd love to live in the city, but then it gets a bit busy, and I'll come back to the mountains, and it's pretty nice up here. Well, ideally, people like to retire to the beach. I'd like to retire and have like a holiday house in the city rather than a holiday house by the beach, so I can go to the city on weekends and go to the cafes, see shows, see bands, and go to all the trendy restaurants and whatnot. And actually, Kez and I, we went to our trendiest restaurant just a couple of weeks ago. You've probably heard of it, Chin Chin in Surrey Hills.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, fancy.
That was pretty fancy. That was pretty trendy, I must say.
Were you going for an event?
No, I just went with a friend.
Nice.
Was staying in the city with a couple of friends, and it was pretty good food, actually. Not a sponsor, shout out, can be if they want to be, but yeah, it was a decent...
Sponsor of the show, maybe?
Yeah, it was a pretty... Feel free to send me a voucher.
A voucher,
that's the word, a voucher via email. Thanks very much. But yeah, good restaurant. I quite enjoyed going there. So you finished uni.
Mm-hmm.
At what point, so you got out of uni and you thought, well, I just fucking wasted 3 years doing that degree because there's no work for a criminologist slant writer. Could get a job writing TV shows for CSI or something.
I finished uni. I did my honours part-time. So I finished the bachelor's, then I did honours. And I did that part-time and I got a job while I was doing that. I started working for government for an emergency services agency in Victoria. In there, they were trying to resolve some cultural issues they were having. So they created like a team that was specifically for making the workforce more inclusive. And then I wanted to work in the TV industry for a little bit.
As an actor or just in the background?
Background. I was interested in writing for television and I was interested in like producing it. But I think
how do you get a job in that? Like if you haven't, did your course have anything to do with it? Or did you just like rock up at a TV show?
No, so it's in some ways it's one of the most accessible industries, and in some ways it's not. In that the way to get a job is you basically there's a bunch of online communities where it's like entry level jobs in the industry, but most of them are unpaid for the first like dozen or so jobs that you do, right? You're basically proving that you can work and that you're a nice person to have on a set. And like often they're like for tiny, community stations or like
a community radio or something like that.
Yeah, or like demos that people are doing or whatever. So you just have to have the grit and determination to go through that, and then to get your first paying job, and then you've got to make the right connections. And I think I'd sort of started to get there in that I was getting some paid work, not in the writing space. That's much harder. That you have to be like so intensely dedicated to always writing, always submitting it everywhere, and just having like a really deep sense of like self-belief that, this is what you're meant to do. With the TV stuff, I think a lot of it is just determination. So yeah, and like I was starting to make the connections, but I think I just wasn't, like it was long days. Like they were
especially
like 13, hours.
Especially if you're like working for nothing for the first couple of jobs.
Yeah. I think I just maybe didn't have the grit and determination needed or the passion needed to stick at it. Like I think a lot of people do it with like an end goal in mind. Like, I'd really like to make a movie one day, or I'd like to do X, Y, and Z one day. The only end goal I had in mind was, have you ever watched the show Survivor? Like, do you like the show Survivor?
Yeah, I think I've watched probably the first Survivor when you were probably still in nappies.
I watched the first Survivor. We loved it. We were in Cambodia and we got all of the box sets and we watched them nonstop. It's like one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, actually, I remember my wife and I Where my wife is mad keen on reality TV.
Nice.
So I spend a lot of time watching reality TV too because I'll be in the room, like doing something, looking at my phone, and always watching it. So yeah, I quite like reality TV. A lot of people bag it out. I personally quite like it. Yeah,
I love it.
And Survivor was a good show. Back the first.
Great.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. So my only end goal that I thought would be really fun was like they have a bunch of crew that work on Survivor that like their whole job is testing the challenges.
Oh, that's what you wanted to do.
And like that would be sick. And so I'm like, that's the job I want. For writing, a lot of what you have to do is write episodes of TV shows, both that are existing and past and ones that you've made up. And mostly to get noticed in Australia, like you'd be doing a lot of submitting them to writing competitions, like script writing competitions, and in America as well. And then, they get shortlisted. Sometimes they get noticed. You'd pair up with, say, like a student filmmaker and try to get it made and submit that to competitions. All of this unpaid. So, yeah, I've got a couple of friends who have done it.
And been successful? Have got through?
Like, have been somewhat successful in like that, it's quite hard in Australia in particular, but like they've been noticed to some degree. But it is so hard. Yeah. And it's also just so much smaller, like the market. And so it's so much harder to get things made. And in a lot of ways, I think we're known, particularly in television, to be like a bit more conservative. Like Australian TV industry doesn't really take a lot of risks. So I just didn't have the grit and determination. And so then I just bopped around for a while. I got a job working in admin with a friend. I was terrible at that. I have no attention to detail.
In admin? I'd say I would have picked you for being decent at admin.
Nah, shithouse. Absolutely shithouse. I just find it like, I don't know. I think I want to get things done quickly. And so then I get frustrated if, that you can't. So that was like my primary issue with that. So anyway, I did that for a bit. And then I decided that I wanted to try living in Sydney. And I got a job as a union organizer. And I loved it.
And that was the first job you got when you came to Sydney?
Yeah.
Did you seek out a union organiser's job? Like, was it because of your history with going to rallies and that, or you just saw it in the paper and thought?
I had no idea what it fucking meant, if I'm being honest with you, Nick. I saw, I knew what a union was, and I was like, I know that's a progressive thing. I didn't know what an organiser did. I think at the time I probably thought it was maybe similar to, like, a lot of my friends still don't know what a union organiser does. And they will say to me like, oh yeah, you'd be a great organiser, Catherine, because you're so organised. Which is like wrong on two counts, which is most organisers I know aren't organised, and I'm also very not organised. So I'm just like, you guys don't know me at all. I
think you just need the passion of what you
I think that's and that's the main thing. Anyway, and that's why I got the job. I was told very explicitly, you weren't a very good applicant, but you chatted well. So we thought, let's just give her a go.
See, that I would believe. And so now you've left that organisation and you're sort of still in that organiser role.
Yeah, I am.
So you think that's going to be your career? That sort of...
Yeah, not a lot of people do it for their entire career because it's quite energy intensive, right? Like you're traveling a lot. Not a lot of downtime. Like you're always sort of on in a way, or like performing. Like I say that I've got like a bit of an organizer personality and then like my actual personality.
Yep.
And I was in a meeting the other day and I was like, I'm not doing very well here. I was like, I haven't switched on my organizer personality. Like, you sort of got to jazz yourself up a bit. So yeah, a lot of people do it until they're maybe like 30, 40, and then they switch into something else that's like still in the industry.
Where do they normally go after organising? Do they go within unions, but somewhere in the back blocks?
Yeah, like sometimes like management or like industrial officer stuff, so a bit more legal side of things, or media stuff. A lot of people actually will go out of the movement and go into government. Like they'll go to the dark side.
The dark side of the force.
Yeah,
hang on.
I can't imagine doing.
Hang on, wait a sec.
To the dark side of the force.
You were asking before if I have my kids on the podcast. I do an episode, Max and me, and I'm not allowed to touch the sound effects buttons because he said it's lame. And I've got friends who said fucking sound effects are fantastic, but
do more of them.
Yeah, but if I go anywhere near that while I'm doing a Max and me episode, Oh, he goes off his nutcracker. So, that's fucking lame. Leave it alone. Don't press it. So anyway, yeah. So they go. Yeah, I have noticed that a lot of union organisers end up working for the person they've been fighting. But I think
I can't imagine it. I would never.
And that's the difference in the people I've met in the union movement. Some people just like the argument, and they're not too fussed about what side of the argument they're on. Their enjoyment of the career is winning the argument. Whereas then you have union people who are passionate about the cause that they're fighting for. And that's the section I'd put you in. You're passionate about the cause rather than the argument.
Too passionate, some would say.
Sometimes, yeah.
Too passionate.
So are you an angry crier then, are you, Catherine, when you get really worked up?
I think I'm an angry crier when something feels really unfair. I think that's what it is. Like, it's not when I'm angry necessarily, but it's when something feels really unfair. And, like, you know that everyone can see it. You're like, we all know that this is fucked up, and yet no one's doing anything about it. I don't know. Have you ever felt like that? Like, had that sort of sense of this is so unjust?
I'm an angry crier if I get too angry, which really sucks as a bloke. And it really sucks as a 50-year-old male. You get so cranky. Start crying.
That doesn't suck. That's beautiful.
Nah, it's fucking
more men should cry. You know, it's really bad that they...
I know that you're vegetarian and vegan. I was going to ask how that came about. Has that been a lifelong thing?
Since I was...
I'd like to also add, did you notice that whenever we had lunch together, I ate vegetarian? Did you notice that?
I don't think I did,
If I sit down at a table full of vegetarians and vegans...
Why is that?
I don't know. I just feel I eat meat. I've got no issue with eating meat, and I have no issue with eating meat in front of vegetarian and vegan people. But if I'm at like a business thing or something, I think it's just polite to not to. I don't know. It just feels like that's the polite thing to do. You're sitting at a table with 3 vegetarians. It's not going to hurt you to eat veg. Like, you can't go one day without steak. Like, come on, man. And I know that you would find absolutely no offence in someone eating meat.
It would be fine.
But I often wondered if people notice that if I ever eat with a vegetarian, I eat vegetarian.
That's so nice, Nick. I don't think I did notice, but that's really... I'm just not a very observant person, so that's so nice.
Journey into vegetarian and veganism.
I became vegan when I was 14. Primarily because, vegetarian when I was 14, but like I also still secretly ate salami for like a year. I would like sneak it out of the fridge.
So salami was your poison.
It was. I love salami.
It was your kryptonite. A big stick of salami. So even if I held up a big stick of salami,
it would be really difficult. And like I some of my fond.
Give me the salami. Sorry, go on.
No, some of my fondest childhood memories are like going around the Queen Vic shops and like the shopkeepers in that. It feels like I'm, an old person being like back in my day, but back in my day, that you'd go around and they'd give me and my younger brother like a stick of cabana each, and you'd gnaw on that as your mum sort of wheeled you around the shop.
Well, back in my day, if you went to the butcher's with your mum, he'd give you a Frankfurt. Now I didn't know you could eat those things without cooking them. Like they're already cooked. Like it'd be cold out of the thing, and you'd give you a Frankfurt. So very, very similar.
Very similar. Yeah. So I would so I went vegetarian because my brother was vegetarian. And I thought that was cool, so I copied him. And that was at 14, 15. And then I still secretly ate salami. And then I think it was when I was around 17, 18 that I became vegan.
Yep. Sorry, when you ate the salami, did you have any real guilt afterwards? Like, did you eat it and think afterwards, oh fuck, I shouldn't be doing this?
I was like, that's sad. Yeah, sorry,
go on. So you 17, 18, you became vegan.
Yeah, then I was vegan, and part of it was just ease because, like you realise more and more that meat products are in a lot of products that are vegetarian, like whether it's gelatin or rennet or whatever. So like gradually things just got cut out because they weren't vegetarian, and then, you get near enough and I was like,
so you wake up one morning and you're thinking, fuck, I'm sort of eating vegan food anyway, I might as well go the whole...
Yeah. The only real loss, and it's still a loss to this day, like a lot of people are like, I don't remember what cheese tastes like, I don't miss it. I deeply, deeply, gutturally miss mozzarella. every single day of my life. I used to take a slab of mozzarella that would be about an inch thick. Like I'd cut it, those big balls of it. I'd cut like an inch thick slice, put it plain in a jaffle maker, like a toasty maker, just by itself, and it would get really crispy on both sides.
Okay, so no bread or anything, just
just cheese, and it would just be this ball of crispy cheese. It was so good, Nick, and I still I feel like I dream of it someday.
You would get on with Kaz because she loves the crispy cheese too. Yeah,
does she? Yeah. Oh, tell her to do that, and then so you could do I used to also do cheese, bread, cheese. Great in a jaffle maker.
So you sometimes dream at night about eating cheese?
I love cheese so much.
That's funny, because I haven't smoked for 20. I'll be over 20 years now, and sometimes I dream. Sometimes I dream of how to smoke, and in the dream I'm enjoying it, but I wake up, and before I realise it was a dream, I wake up disappointed that I started smoking again.
Oh, you feel guilty,
and then I remember that it was a dream, and I actually feel happy that I haven't started smoking again. So is that how you are? That's how you are with mozzarella, is it?
I dream of cheese. I think about it all the time. I think it helps though in a way, in that a lot of vegans will try to convince people that vegan alternatives are, just as good as the real thing. And I think it helps to be honest. So when people are like, "Oh, is this vegan pizza good?" or whatever, I'm like, "Yeah, it's really yummy."
But it's not.
It's not a pizza as you would know it. And that's okay though. To me the trade-off is worth it, of I feel like I'm living by my values, and that is worth it. But there's no point lying to people. I'm like, don't lie, because it's going to make them madder when they eat it. They're going to eat it and be like, this was disgusting. Why did you feed me this thing that doesn't taste at all like cheese? I don't know. Have you ever considered being vegan or veggie?
Look, I have. I could be vegetarian. I couldn't give up eggs and honey.
And honey, that's such an unusual one.
I don't. And look, to be honest with you, I don't. I get vegans gives me not eating eggs, but I don't get the point of it, because most eggs aren't fertilized, so they're not going to grow into a chicken. Like if I've got chickens in my backyard who are laying eggs, if I don't have a rooster, the eggs they lay are not going to turn into another chicken. So I don't have an issue with eating those eggs, because they're not going to. If you left them on the ground and sat on them, they're not fertilized, so they're not turning into chickens. So they're just going to rot anyway.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think.
I wouldn't buy caged eggs. Those battery hens. I don't agree with doing stuff like that at all. And I don't know what I buy the other day. I bought organic free range eggs that were like $13.50, and I got home and it was only 10 eggs in the carton. It wasn't even a dozen carton. And people say, what was missing to? I said, no, the fucking carton it was like a 10 egg carton.
That's inflation for you.
Yeah, so I could be vegetarian, but I don't understand why you wouldn't eat an egg that's not fertilised, or honey from a bee. Bees are pretty cruisy. They live in a hive. They get taken around and they cross-pollinate all our crops for us. And so I don't feel like taking the honey from the bees is really ripping the bees off.
Is it an interesting topic of conversation for the listeners of this show for me to tell you my reasons?
But yeah, absolutely. Give us your views on why you're vegan, mate. Be honest.
The honey thing is interesting, because honey actually doesn't come from Australian bees that do the pollination.
But I thought we moved bees into areas to pollinate, like we actually transported them.
No. As far as I'm aware, the bees that we need are the native bees, and the bees that produce honey are actually causing issues for our native bee population.
Oh, I did not know that. Maybe I need to do some research.
But the honey thing, actually, it's not. I mean, that I learnt later. The reason why I stopped having honey was, one reason I think is better than the other. The reason I think is better is that some bees do still die in the collection of honey. They get squished, when the things are scraped or whatever. That reason I think is a bit better. There's another more philosophical reason that I do believe, but I don't blame others for not subscribing to. It feels much more personal, right? Which is that I think there's something that feels strange to me about using another living being as a resource. I think that's it's a philosophical thing that feels odd to me, which is it goes to the eggs thing as well, right? Which is that my grandma, for example, has chickens. She's got backyard chickens, and my brother, who's vegan, will have the eggs from the backyard chickens. Most of her chickens are rescue chickens, so she hasn't. When you buy the chickens to produce the eggs backyard, my view is that you are contributing to an industry that breeds chickens to create eggs, and it has a lot of health issues for the chickens. Like they don't necessarily have the happiest of times, just because of their body composition. But if you rescue them, like, you're not really contributing to the industry. And so I understand why he eats the eggs. Like, it's not contributing to the industry. They're going to lay the eggs anyway. I still find it, and he asked me, I think it was just last summer, he said, why don't you eat the eggs? They're not contributing to anything bad. They're not, like, the chickens have been rescued, so you're not contributing to the industry. The eggs are going to be laid regardless. And it goes back to like the sort of that similar philosophy, right? I just feel like it's a bit strange to eat parts of another being or eat something another being's created. It feels, I guess, fundamentally a bit exploitative to me. But I recognize that that's not necessarily based in any like practical ethics in that scenario.
Yep.
It's much more
in your personal beliefs.
Yeah, like spiritual's the wrong word, right? But I think it's much more about personal sort of approaches to what it means to move through this world.
Yeah, and look, I can sort of understand the bees, because if you looked at the human race as a beehive, and if someone owned the human race and whatever we gave off they were using, you could say bees are all sort of like living in their little city, and all of a sudden
they're having a great time.
Someone comes down with a big scraper and goes, "Yeah, I can give you that. I'll have that, thanks." There's collateral damage. Yeah. So I guess some bees are dying, but most people sort of like try and live to their beliefs. So if your beliefs are that orientated, then I say good luck to people who want to be vegan. You know what I mean? Like I actually don't have an issue with it at all. I'm usually interested in how people got to that. That thing. So you don't have leather or anything like that?
No. Which I sometimes contemplate in terms of like the question of how to tread lightly, right? Like in that, I know a lot of people who are vegan who will buy secondhand leather. They definitely would never buy new, but they'll buy secondhand and like
I see what you mean.
Wool and stuff secondhand.
Yep.
I haven't been able to bring myself to do that yet, but I don't think it's a wrong thing to do.
So even wool is a thing that you don't like to use.
Yeah.
Yep. So how do you get blankets and stuff like that then? I'd have to say I've seen some articles and read some articles about how they get feathers for down.
Yeah, that's very sad, isn't it? Man, it's very dark.
Yeah, that's not a pretty looking thing at all, and I wouldn't buy a feather quilt or anything. That was, you know what I mean? Like, so I get what you're saying. I guess I don't have the it's pretty. Some of the stuff we do to animals is pretty harsh to get the thing.
It's just a lot, isn't it? And then I think, it's all these little things that add up that mean that we don't really notice it anymore, right? Like, people just buy a down jacket and they don't really think about it.
That where it came from.
And they'll get a wool thing and they won't really think about it. They'll eat a steak and they won't really think about it. And it's the world is designed that way, right? Like, we're designed to be so separated from our purchases that we don't question anything about them.
Yeah.
You're just designed to have us not ask. It's the same way that they'll go, made from recycled plastic or whatever, or, something like that. And then it's still made by like slave labor, right? But we're not meant to ask.
Yeah, it's not it's recycled plastic, but 3-year-olds are putting it together.
Yeah, exactly. So. But like, so it's not any individual's fault. And, many people who share my politics will say to you that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Like, there's no way to be an ethical consumer in this. I don't necessarily believe that. I think it's sort of a lazy philosophy, but that's what a lot of people believe.
Yeah. Did you find, because you find a lot of people judge vegetarians and vegans pretty harshly. Do you find that? Like, it's almost like a racism thing towards, because like I've sat down and had lunch with yourself and other people there have said a joke about meat or something.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I always think it really, there's no, like, we know that this particular person's a vegan. You don't need to make a joke about, I'm having fucking steak. Hey, Catherine, I'm having a steak. Look at this over here. You know what I mean? That's just fucking stupid, I reckon. You know what I mean? It's not nice. And I cringe when I hear people say it. I think, because I probably might have said something like that in the past few years. I probably would have said that 20 years ago. But do you find that sometimes you just get the shits and think, fuck, man, just stop. I am who I am. I'm not telling you not to eat meat, but just fucking stay in your lane and leave me alone.
It's a good question, Nick. And it's something I always appreciate about you, that you don't do that. But I like, yeah, sometimes it is annoying, right? But, like, the only thing I find annoying is when people like, oh, does this upset you? Like, they try to use it to actively upset you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, people will be like, moo, you know, when they're eating steak.
See,
like,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you're eating steak, man. Just fucking eat the thing.
Yeah.
There's no need. There's no need. You know what I mean?
For the theatre.
You have to like grab it by the head and rub a nose in it. Fuck, say, oh look, I'm eating a fucking steak. Yeah, I don't know.
I do. So, like, yeah, it does get annoying sometimes. But I also, like, when I was younger, I used to be incredibly judgmental of other people. And so I sort of don't.
Most people are
begrudge it.
Most people are when they're younger, judgmental.
Yeah, most
of
people are
everyone
fucking awful when they're younger.
Yeah.
And I was no exception to that rule. I was.
You get a bit nicer as you grow up. I think. You get more tolerant of other people's beliefs.
I think, or at least I hope that you become more accepting of the fact that humans are imperfect, and we're all sort of trying.
Yeah.
You know, and you go, there's different ways that we're all trying, and that's a beautiful thing. Have you ever accidentally eaten something that's not vegan since you've gone down that path? And did you? I have. Yeah.
And you've like finished the meal, and then someone's like, you've said, oh, we're chatting. Say I've cooked something at home, a vegetarian dish, and I don't know, I've used beef stock, I suppose, in the vegetarian pasta, and then you say, oh, I'm vegan. I just go, oh fuck, I'm so sorry, Catherine. I put beef stock in the vegetarian lasagna. I didn't even think. I just put it in there. Would that upset you, or you just brush it off, or?
It would have definitely in the past. Like, I mean, I think when I was also younger, like, I had a lot of severe mental health things, which meant that I reacted more strongly to things like that. Like, I had quite severe OCD and anxiety, which meant that my brain reacted a lot more strongly to things out of my control, right? So, like, that would be like I've got to fix this somehow. Now that those things are no longer controlling my brain, it happens sometimes, and you just sort of go, well, what am I going to do now?
It's
you can't do anything about
it. You can't change it.
I mainly am just like, let's just move on, because like what will upset me is if I think about it for too long. I'm like, let's not just keep harping on about it. You know, somebody will be like, I'm so sorry, I didn't even think it was this beef stock. Maybe it's a more ethical beef stock. Like, that's a perfect example because it happens, right?
Yeah, I thought you would have liked this beef stock because it's RSPCA approved and they're grain fed and they're looked after. Yeah.
Or they're like, it's organic and it's nice and it's from this guy up the road. Or like we made it ourselves.
So all of that
stuff. It's like you're like, cool. Like I'm like, let's just move on. You know what I mean?
Have you had people try and like trick you into eating non-vegan food? No, you've never come across anyone like that?
No, I would find that really. I don't think I would be like friends with someone.
No, I wouldn't be. I think that would have to end the friendship, I think.
Right? Like, it's just quite disrespectful of somebody's fundamental beliefs.
And again, if you were to come to my house for dinner, I would go and buy a new fry pan for the stuff. I wouldn't cook your food.
Oh, you wouldn't have to do that.
But see, that's what I would do. So you're not that, like some people. And I used to be. I get why they are.
Yeah.
Where they ask the different fry pans and that. But I think if I knew a vegan family was coming to my place for dinner, I would probably go and buy a new fry pan.
No, I wouldn't. No. In previous iterations of my life, I would have been, but these days, no. Like, I live with one meat eater. You know, it's fine. She's always very like careful about it, but it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm so sorry, the house smells like chicken. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. You should start making noises or something,
because my parents eat meat. Yeah, like it just smells nice and homey.
Really. All your brothers and sisters all vegetarian, vegan, or just your one brother?
No. So my oldest brother always ate meat very strongly. He's a real foodie. Like fancy food is his passion. So I think it would be quite hard for him to restrict his diet in any way. My older brother, he went vegan and then I went vegan, but then he now he took it down a very different path in that he's very like sustainable in his living. So he'll eat wild boar.
So if he brings the animal up and slaughters it himself and dresses it, he'll eat it, or
no, it's more like if it's feral animals. If it's better for sustainable land management, basically. So kangaroos and wild boar he will eat. And seafood I think he eats now as well. And then my younger brother also went vegan for a while. But I don't think he was that careful about what he ate. Like, he wasn't he wasn't making sure that he was eating enough energy or whatever. And so then he was just like, he just felt too depleted. And then I think he's eating fish maybe, but not meat. I'm not sure.
I'm sort of like, I think the fishing, if talking about ethical things, having a philosophical discussion, ethical things, I feel bad for fish because we spend so much time saving the whales. If you go down to Eden in Twofold Bay, you used to catch 300-pound bluefin tuna in the bay in the 50s and 60s. You've got to go 30 k's offshore now and then it's like a massive, it'll make the news that, oh, look at this 400-pound tuna. Yeah. So I think sustainable, I'd be more inclined to not eat fish as a protest of fucking the sustainability of fish. But having said that, unfortunately, I do have some snapper fillets I'm having for dinner tonight in the fridge. So I don't know, that just goes straight out the window right there, doesn't it?
Do you did you like ever go fishing or anything like when you were younger?
Yeah, I fished a lot actually when I was living on the North Coast.
What did you like about it?
I just liked catching fish. I never really, I just liked it. I didn't always eat them. Occasionally I would eat them, but most of the time I threw them back, yeah. Did
you go with your parents, your dad?
Yeah, we fished a lot growing up off the beach, yeah. The beach worms, that, and I spent a lot of time fishing out of boats when I was living on the north coast of New South Wales. Don't fish as much now because it's, I don't know, I just couldn't be bothered putting the boat on and driving an hour and a half to get to where you got to go to fish. You know what I mean? Like, a bit lazy. So...
did you ever go fishing with your kids?
Yeah, Max, my son. Yeah, he likes fishing. He spends a lot of time fishing.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
out in nature. That's good. I've always said that if I ever had kids, I'd want to have them near the beach because I just feel like there's a lot of activities that.
Yeah, look. I don't bushwalk in the mountains. Yeah. I have got zero interest in walking up a mountain or on a cliff. But if I lived by the ocean, I'd walk along the beach every day of the week, sort of thing, and I'd walk over.
So nice, and like you see around here, because we don't live near a particularly wavy beach, but every so often there's like at least some, like there's a stormy day or whatever, and it's so nice because you see like these groups of mates going out, like 14, 15-year-old boys, and they're just like so excited to have waves, and like so it's just so wholesome and beautiful. Because I don't know, you're just used to seeing 14, 15-year-old boys be like rat bags on the tram or whatever and just being nuisances, which like everyone is at that age, So I don't know, I just think it's so beautiful,
Yeah,
like
look, there's nothing, I think there's something that really, I don't know, what's the word? You should know this word, cathartic, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Getting in the ocean and floating around the ocean, you know what I mean? Like
it totally is. Oh my God, if I've had a bad or a stressful day, you go for a swim, better.
But some people have that response by sitting on a cliff looking over the Three Sisters or something. I don't. If I look over the Three Sisters, I'd rather be in the ocean. Like I just couldn't.
You're just like, okay, there's some rocks.
There they are.
And
they look the same as they were yesterday. Oh, let's fucking go. Let's move on. We'll go somewhere else. But I could sit at the beach all day looking at the ocean. So I guess it's
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
I've got no idea, Catherine, to be honest with you. What do you do when you're not working? You like going for a swim? Is there I
spend most of my time at the beach.
Yep. Just swimming, or you like sitting on the sand reading a book?
Sitting on the sand reading a book, yeah. I have a mostly because my best friend who lives in South Australia, she loves reading so much. And one of the main ways that she bonds with people is like through books. So I have an Instagram account where I document the books I'm reading primarily.
So you'll both read the same book?
Yeah, a lot of the time.
And then have a chat about it? Is she a friend from Victoria or from your course of creative?
Yeah, from Victoria. Yeah. From when I was... Yeah, so we've been friends for 15 years. So yeah, I read. I exercise quite a lot. That's really good for me. Like for my mental health. Like so I'll just do a lot of different exercise.
To combat the anxiety and OCD that you had as a younger person?
Yeah, and just generally it's good,
Was that pretty hard to get through that? If you don't have to talk about that if you don't want to. That's probably a bit more.
It's fine. Yeah, it was. Like it was very challenging. And it will always be part of my brain. But
you learn.
You learn a lot.
To deal with it. Yeah, look, I got a bit of anxiety and spent 12 months talking to a bloke about anxiety and it's a funny thing, anxiety, because when you look at what causes it in your brain and the old brain and all that, you can see it happening, but it's like you're watching it. You can see it happening, but you can't stop it from happening.
Is, yeah.
It's a strange Strange thing.
It's very, very strange. But you learn a lot of self-compassion, which I think is like the main thing, right? I think that's a really amazing thing. And I think it's really helped me in a lot of ways as well, like be there for mates who are going through similar things, like sort of being able to talk to them about that sort of stuff.
Do you still like to write? Is that your like? Do you have like a
No.
when you're stressed, like what do you like? I come to my music room and play the guitar and that. Not very well. I play all right, but that's like my place. I go to de-stress and that. Do you have something that you do? Like, do you write?
I'll go. The number one thing is go for a swim with mates. So like I'm lucky enough to live near a lot of mates. You know, be like 5 p.m. See you at the beach. Let's go. No matter the weather.
Even in winter, you'll go down.
Yeah.
What's the water like at the moment?
I might go for a swim after this.
Is it pretty? Like, isn't it too dark to get out in the ocean?
Sharks are there at sunrise and sunset.
I don't know. I don't know about swimming in the ocean in the dark, man.
Yeah,
it's too dangerous.
I go all the time. It's lovely. I'm probably going to go for a run.
They're parenting me saying, "Can you send me a text message? Let me know you're out of the water."
I know my mum hates it. Actually, yeah, she really doesn't like.
Because everyone says, "Don't go swimming in the dark, mate." What if you get stuck in a rip? How are they going to find you?
No, it's a very sheltered beach that we're at. It's fine.
Right.
So yeah, swim. Like to talk my friends' ears off. You know, that's always.
I hadn't noticed that with you.
No, I'm very quiet, aren't I? Very.
So you don't write then? So you did trying. So the writing thing is not something you need to do now, but it might.
The writing thing I always just did for fun. I found it enjoyable. Every so often I think about it.
Is there any stories you started to write as a teenager that you think are still sort of you hear or listen to authors talk about how they came up with books, and sometimes they say, I had an idea when I was 13, and I sort of wrote, and it's sort of been percolating in the back of my head. There's nothing. No.
The things I wrote were absolutely shithouse. They would have all just been like thinly veiled, fictions based on my life or whatever. A
lot of people have made some good money, Catherine, writing thinly veiled fiction out there, romance novels and stuff.
I think writing now would make me more stressed in a way, in that I'd be like, this is fucking shit.
So you'd be more self-critical of what you're actually writing.
Sure. Don't have the delusions of a teenager.
Back when you're 14, you think, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever written.
You're like, wow, this is so artistic.
Sit around with your friends going, read this. Oh, Catherine, I can't believe you wrote that.
Like literally, and then you look back on it, you're like, that's so embarrassing. So yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I can imagine one day trying to write something again. My mum sort of only started creative writing. I guess she did when we were younger. She wrote kids' books, but then it was only, I think, when we were all maybe in high school that she sort of got the time to dedicate to writing fiction.
Do you think if you asked her that question, she would say she had a story percolating in her head for quite some time? Because I just people who write things like that, or they write songs or something, do they just wake up in the middle of the night and go, fuck, boom, here's an idea for, you know what I mean? Or is it something that just sort of...
I think she always says that the main thing about writing is that it's hard work. I think that, she said it's not, I think she always says it's not just like some idea that comes to you and then it all just flows from there. You might have a kernel of an idea and then the rest of it is like a friggin' slog.
Because if it was easy, everyone would be writing a book.
The only way that you can continue to do anything in this life is to find a way to laugh at all the things that are horrific, right? Because if you actually thought about all the horrific things that happen in this world, if you thought about how companies out there are literally manipulating people every single day to make them become gambling and drinking addicts, if you thought about all of that and about how really none of us have a lot of agency because of all these companies controlling us, it's really grim. So instead, we laugh.
Just laugh at it.
And we think about the small amounts of agency we do have and the incremental change.
So is that the advice you'd give to someone listening then at the end of your episode?
My advice would be to laugh at everything you can, even the horrible things. I have found that to be immensely helpful. And to talk about things. I think my life changed dramatically when I became a more open person as well, is what I would say. Yeah.
So you weren't always this outgoing?
No, talkative? And chatty about... No, I definitely wasn't. There was a time in my life when I was quite a private person. Wouldn't say that any longer. In the industry that we met in, Nick, I said to a room full of 50 people, I said, if anyone's got any beautiful single people to set me up with, please do.
And you haven't found that. You haven't found that person yet?
No, I'm still dating. Yeah,
still looking.
Still looking. So again, shout out on the podcast.
On the podcast,
if anyone has an eligible man or woman or non-binary person who is between the ages of 20, let's say 25 and 36. That feels like a good age range. I'm 29 and you're particularly attractive, send them my way.
Are you on dating apps?
I am.
Do you I was actually I did an episode of Max and me, and we had a third guest, Mel, and we were talking about dating apps, and she's quite tall, so she only lets people at a certain height see her.
Oh, really?
Do you select vegan and vegetarian only, or are you happy to go?
No, happy with anything, yeah. And I never really understood the height thing either.
Yeah, she explains. Yeah, have a listen to the episode, and be sure to press subscribe and like and all that kind of shit too.
I've already subscribed.
Oh, have you? Cool. I appreciate you coming on the show because you're sort of giving out a fair bit of yourself out there to the whole world, I guess. So
very happy to. It's a fun podcast to be on, and yeah, I think you're like the reason why you're so good at your job, Nick, is because you're like a very good listener and you're a very responsive person. So I think you're the perfect person to have a podcast.
Cool. Well, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. So have you got anything else you'd like to add to the show about the world according to Catherine?
No. I reckon
we pretty much covered it, haven't we?
I reckon that's, you've listened to me rant more than enough. This is like my dream, to be given an hour slot to just talk nonsense.
Hour and a half, actually.
Hell yeah.
We're just about the cracking hour and a half.
You're going to have to edit out.
No, look,
cut that in half.
There's only one thing which I'll write down on here that I might edit out, and that was I think we named a particular union or something.
I said should I name them again? It was a union that I thought had really sick merch.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna put their name on there, so I'll cut that out.
All right, everyone. Yeah. It's just there's a union that you would probably have heard of that has really cool merch. That's cool merch.
Well, wait till you see the website that I'm starting up in a couple of weeks.
True, good plug.
And I've got merchandise coming, so feel free to buy it. But yeah, thanks for coming, Catherine. I really appreciate you talking to me this afternoon.
I appreciate you, Nick. Thank you.
And we'll catch up at some other stage. Just want to put a shout out in after today's episode to Catherine to say I'm still waiting for those details on the protest. I told you I'd come along with you. I'll even hold the placard. I might even yell out. I might even talk into the megaphone if you bring one along. But in the meantime, if you want to send me an email, it's info@eastcoastaverages.com. Website is eastcoastaverages.com. I'm all on social medias. It's all East Coast Averages. If you've got the time, could you please press like and subscribe on the podcast platform that you're using? That'd be great. We'll be back next week with another episode. I'm not sure how many more I've got before season 1's finished, but I'm going away for a month. But I'll let you know on the last episode I publish before I go.